Hello and welcome to Three Comics Walk into a Non-Socially Distanced Pub, the bi-weekly trot through the news with myself and two of my fellow comics, Paul Ricketts. I would just like to say before I carry on, thank you for listening, and if you are enjoying it and you do want to comment, please leave a comment below. And we'll try and join as much as we can. Juliet Myers is the other comic, by the way. Please share it as far as you like. Now, in this week of Raduca Mania, after the tennis last night, it's probably overlooked that one other very strong female performer has had some good news this week, and I'm talking about Britney Spears. This conservatorship is killing me. Won't even let me take my IUD. They control my life, and it is mine. Won't let me have a baby one more time. And of course, this week we learned that shock jock and podcaster extraordinaire Joe Rogan has admitted that he happily is taking ivermectin. Took loads of medicine from a horse with no name. Felt good till I shit my pants on the train. There's no side effects that I can trace, except I'm running an Epsom in the 2:30 race. La la. Anyway, that is a good lead-in, and please welcome my fellow comics, Paul Ricketts and Juliet Myers. Yay! Let's talk about the big news first. I mean, the tennis last night. What do we think?
Amazing. Brilliant. Good to see that someone from Beckenham has actually won something. C and I now reside in this place. Very proud of her. Even though there's still the argument: is it in? I've noticed that some newspapers say it's South East London.
You'll be trying to claim
Kent. Yeah, so it's the sort of schizophrenic nature of Beckenham and Bromley.
Yeah, somebody's actually tweeted a brilliant tweet. You can't push back boats and cheer on Raducanu. Make your mind up. So I think let's. Good for her, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the notice. What was it? Farage saying congratulations to her when she's of mixed heritage. I find that quite. She's just the sort of person that Farage would not allow in the country.
No, but there's a bandwagon to be jumped on.
Oh, of course.
And both him and Boris. Well, I mean, to be fair, she did do an amazing job, but it does feel like, oh, great, we've got to get behind her now. Whereas, same as Piers Morgan, really, but, Piers Morgan was like, just too panicky woman. And then suddenly he's like, oh, she's amazing.
Yes, that's true, because he was slagging her off in Wimbledon, but all of a sudden now she's a winner. What a fantastic individual she is.
I know. It did make me laugh that they kept saying at the beginning on the comment, I think it was Tim Enman or someone was saying, oh, she's taking on a lefty. She's taking on a lefty. And I was like, what? Is she going to argue with Corbyn? And they just meant left-handed? And I was like, I didn't know they were called lefties.
Well, obviously that means she's bound to win. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Well, let's get started as well. Can that lead us nicely? I talked about Joe Rogan has admitted live on air.
Oh, he's frozen again.
And out of Joe Rogan and
ivermectin, is it? I don't know if I pronounced it right. Horse paste.
It's ivermectin. Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, they said to him, what was it like? And he just went. I've always wanted to do that. But also the big news this week, of course, and it's only broke today, is that vaccine pass will not be part of the English government's policy. They voted for it, but we've firmly come out against. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I can see arguments pro and con the passports, but I quite admire that the Scots have passed the bill to do it. part of me wonders whether sneaky Nicola Sturgeon is quietly going to put William Wallace on the passport and just write Scotland and be like, we've had the independence vote now.
Yeah, it's changed the colour. Right, actually. But there was a guy from the nightclub association, right? They had, and he was going, and I'll read you what he said. Nightclubs will continue to provide all possible safety measures to ensure that all our patrons are safe. Have you been to a nightclub? I mean, it's what they talk. It's meaningless, isn't it? I mean, it's a hot, sweaty environment with nobody wearing a mask. And what gets me is it's like the equivalent of, if you don't have COVID passports, you have to, oh yeah, in you go. I mean, you know, nobody's going to say, oh, no. It's going to have to let people in on their word, aren't they?
Well, of all the places that have always had an entry policy, nightclubs are the one, aren't they? So the very idea that they've just added something extra to the list is the least of your worries. You know, let's face it, probably all three of us would not be allowed entry.
Never.
Into a nightclub.
No.
I mean, last time I tried it, and it was
over
a decade ago, they wouldn't let me in because I had trainers on, and they said, "Well, it's speed garage night, mate. You wouldn't like it," and they were right in that respect. I've even had to I went to a nightclub in Scotland where they wouldn't let me in because I had boots on. So I took the boots off, put them in my bag, and then walked in with socks, which they didn't notice.
Wow. I've been turned away for trainers, but quite happily, because I've been queued behind hen nights and thought, I don't really want to go in. And I don't know if we're allowed to name nightclubs, but Tiger. And I'd always just think, oh, hooray. So terrible they named it twice. But
I wonder if the nightclubs are relying on the
have a passport. If I had to go clubbing, I'd be like, oh no.
I wonder if nightclubs are relying on the fact that bouncers will have to stop COVID. You know, if COVID tries to get in, it's going, no, mate. No, don't want your sauce in here. Well, no, too spiky.
Yeah, I like that Boris Johnson apparently said that a number of fences would have to be jumped before they could decide whether they needed passports or not. And it was like, well, what? So you're saying if people can get into Glastonbury by just jumping a fence?
Well, that's if you've taken ivermectin, you can jump the fences, can't you? But the other sort of COVID news was,
I was just thinking the fence that could be jumped is, would they let Michael Gove in? If that's a possibility, then obviously anyone's allowed in. If Michael Gove can turn up and cut a rug.
Are you Secretary of State? Yes. In you come. Come on. You've got good genes. The other thing is that I don't know if you've seen this, that the mu variant has now become a variant of concern by the WHO, and it's actually in the UK now, isn't it? Do either of you? I mean, we are of a certain age. You remember the KLF?
Yes.
And justified entrance of mu. No, I can't get that blood.
All the sentence finished.
Oh, going to be mu. Sorry,
it's just because it's a Greek M, isn't it? As in Moussaka for me. So I'm like, that's how I'll remember it. But variant of concern no, hang on. Is it a variant of interest or a variant of concern? I don't
just
understand.
concern.
Yeah, a variant of interest. Yeah.
So
there's all gradations, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's not yet worthy of an intervention by family and friends. It's just something. Yeah, I'm slightly worried about it. Really, should be okay. He'll pull himself together sooner or later.
But it's very I love the fact that all these variants, they're getting quicker and quicker to transmit. Like if someone could tell my broadband provider how to do that.
Very good. Yes. Well, we're going to switch on to another subject because it's kind of related about health as well. Just like to do a little intro for a song. This is for anybody worried about social care. when I get older in social care, not many years from now, will the staff still be wearing PPE supplied by a Tory donor for an obscene fee? How will be funded?
He's really suffering, isn't he?
Amazon or Starbucks, or just bleed the poor. There you go.
Do you know that it has to be mentioned? You keep cutting out, Steve.
Oh,
this might be.
I know.
This might be part of the show this week.
I don't know why. Because no other...
The internet is going to basically make a judgment and go, "Nah, we're not listening to the punchline here."
Right. Okay. Well, that was basically leading us on to social care because the big thing this week is that the Tories have said that they're going to increase national insurance contributions by over 1.5% or something. And someone did say to me, do you know what your national insurance number is? And I said, yeah, millions. But the burden is going to fall on younger and poorer workers, isn't it? Basically.
Yes. Yeah. Who else? People who don't vote Tory. Yeah, even the ones who do in the north. Unfortunately, you made that mistake. Now you're going to pay for it, literally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, you can actually find anything on Google, by the way, except where they keep all the money they should have paid in tax. You can't actually find that because they are the people. They should tax the giant corporations, shouldn't they?
Oh, well, sounds sensible, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. What I like is the fact that I knew that they would use the argument. Well, governments over generations have not dealt with this issue. And of course, it's the last 40 years, Tories have been in power for 75% of that time. And yet somehow they seem to have no responsibility for never having dealt with this, having been in power for such a great length of time. And somehow it's not their fault. It's the fault of the party that was in for 1/4 of that time. I find it amazing how they keep getting away with this. And no one's, not even the Labour Party seems to work that one out yet. Wait a minute, we've only been in power for a very small amount of time over the last 40 years. How do we get blamed? But,
Yeah, exactly.
I know. And also Boris, didn't he say he's sort of blaming this a bit on COVID, but actually didn't he say he had a plan about this way before COVID? And you go, well, what was that plan? Because it sounds like it was just this plan. But now you're blaming it on COVID. I don't know what people watching think. We forgot to ask about what you thought about passports. We like to know what you think.
Yes, I also think we should ask the audience, when Steve drops out, if they could suggest their own punchlines to the one that we missed.
Oh dear. And incidentally, by the way, I think that what Boris's plan before COVID was to produce as many children as he could to look after him in old age. And I think he's up to, who knows how many he's up to now, because he doesn't, does he?
No, nobody knows.
And younger wives. I mean, it's much like the wives. He's done the same thing, hasn't he? He promises each time to look after someone in sickness and in health, and then goes, actually, no. And he's done that with the social care plan as well as his marriage vows.
Yeah, because when he came to that bit in the vows, he'd go, in sickness and in health, he just to mumble. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he just goes, I've got a plan, which is to divorce you if you're ill.
Well, he's got the ultimate protection, hasn't he, really, which is multiple houses and many progeny that could be queuing up to wipe his ass when he gets older, which is what social care is basically all about. Who's going to do those awful little jobs for you? And it's nice to have a selection of children that might do it.
Yeah.
I envy him up to a certain degree.
I haven't got any kids. I'm terrified.
Me neither. So I'm looking at my nephews and nieces going, yes, you might like me now.
Well, we actually live
for as long as you can.
Yes. What's that? Andrex for another birthday present, Uncle? Yes. Just get used to it. Double pleated for extra comfort. I'm giving this to you now.
But we actually live opposite an old people's home. It's outside this window, and I once made the kids cry when they were very young. Because I said it's very handy because when we get too decrepit, we can move into the place opposite. They both burst into tears. But I was only half joking because it's not very far. It's only a, like 2-minute walk. You can smell the cabbage from here.
You can see where you used to live when
Yeah,
the house you sold to get yourself a
I'll be like
place
that.
in
I
there.
used to live there. Now.
Exactly. No, it's not your house. It is. No, we've sold it. Ignore the people walking around inside it.
Yeah, with the new double glazing which they put in.
Listen, let's move quickly on because another great story this week was that in Richmond, Virginia, the statue of Robert E. Lee has been taken down and carted off to be placed in a museum, I think. But it's actually not been removed by the people themselves, but by the actual state legislature. And Donald Trump tweeted yesterday, there goes, shame, Robert E. Lee would have won the war in Afghanistan.
What?
That's
This is
what
a
he
bloke who
actually said.
surrendered. This is a
I'm
bloke
not making
who
it up.
surrendered. I can't believe it. He surrendered. He lost the war. Do you know there's thousands of commemorations to Robert E. Lee in America? There's something like 50 statues and well, over 50 statues. They've taken down 25. And then I thought, he lost the war, lost the Civil War. And how many statues are there for Oliver Cromwell in this country who won the war? There's only 5.
Yeah, but he banned Christmas, though, didn't he? According to myth.
Well, he killed a king, makes him a good bloke in my book. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's
a start.
Perhaps as racist as Robert E. Lee. He didn't like the Irish. So, okay. You could give that to him. But, he lost the war.
Do you know what the defense of people? I've just been researching it. That people say of Robert E. Lee, he may have inherited 4 families of slaves from his mother. And he owned well over 300 slaves himself, but he didn't like it. He didn't like it. He said in private letters, he said it was a moral and repugnant evil. But when it came to freeing the slaves, he did it, and he didn't let them go for nearly 5 years. He kept them. And that thing. I wanted to talk about this because there's always that defense of when statues are toppled on. He goes, he was a man of his time. How could he have possibly known that slavery was wrong? I thought, well, no one, and there was at least 1.5 million black people in chains that knew it was wrong from the get-go.
And people were telling him it was wrong, to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, how awful. I've got slaves. I don't like it. That's ridiculous. I thought it was interesting that Trump objected because I thought all the people that seemed so upset about the statue going seemed to be Trump supporters. And I thought, actually, who better to have a statue of in bronze, because he is actually bronze, than
Hopefully they'll stick him on a horse as well. You know that some of these statues are as little as 30 years old of Robert E. Lee.
Yeah,
they're not.
Yeah.
And most of them were, nearly all of them, after his death, obviously. And 30 years old, I think some of them are. So the people who made them know full well what these statues mean and what they symbolize. There is no sort of like, of its time. It's nothing to do with of its time. It's of this time, and it's trying to put a message out, and the message is pretty clear.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those. Sorry, go on.
I thought you'd frozen. So I thought I'd talk. So I didn't interrupt you. I thought you'd frozen. I'm just pleased because it does seem to me that people are defending him in a ridiculous way, as Paul was saying. So I'm pleased it's not the people that have removed him. It's that. Who is it? It's the state of Virginia.
Virginia, yeah. They voted to do it. I love the fact that when they took him down, this has been one of the chants that people that have toppled the statues, they would just sing. They stood. There was a crowd of about 300 people going na 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 hey goodbye. Which on one level is bizarre and weird, but on the other it's fantastic. It's an example of a bit of humour, isn't it?
Never realised the power of Bananarama. because I know people talk about the Spice Girls and girl power, but I think Bananarama, a much more politically sort of valid group, who I support fully.
Yeah, and they had
always
that
been like that about the Spice Girls, whereas Bananarama, as left and hardcore as they come.
No, that's right. Yeah, and they even so hardcore they sacked one of their own members. But
yes, indeed, because it's not how you. It's not what you do; it's the way that you do it. That's what gets results.
Very good, very good. Okay, well we'll leave that one. What's the next story I was going to talk about? Was to do with this is a bizarre story that Gavin Williamson, the Education Secretary, said. I spoke to Marcus Rashford just the other day, and it was the rugby player Maro Itoje. He got the two of them mixed up. It's just getting better and better for him, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it's as strange enough, it seems like most of the things we're talking about, apart from COVID, are race today. So, as the black man, I will say, obviously, it's happened to me loads of times, even in comedy clubs. One that gets me is Reginald D. Hunter. I get mistaken for Reginald D. Hunter, and I look nothing like him, sound nothing like him.
Can you do the voice though?
No, I can't even do the voice. Once he told me that once someone mistook him for me.
That pissed him off.
No, he said it was a compliment. He was being nice, obviously. But it's even like promoters will even say to me, I won't mention names, but so I did a performance at a very well-known comedy club, and it went really well. And at the end of it, the promoter said, so should I stop booking Reginald D. Hunter and book you instead? And to which I said, why don't you book both of us? Because we're nothing like each other.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So that's the same sort of thing as far as I'm concerned. Well, they're all the same, aren't they, really? They're interchangeable. Even though when you look at Marcus Rashford, working class bloke from Manchester, who has got one of the world's most boring speaking voices.
Yeah, it does.
Mario Itoje from the south, went to Harrow.
Did he?
Yeah, plays a completely different game.
Player. I don't believe it.
Yes, he's got a degree in poetry, and he's not incredibly posh. He's very well spoken. How could you mistake the two? They are so. Apart from them both being black, they have nothing in common. They have different haircuts. They sound different. They look different. But of course, all the same, really, aren't they? All the same.
Hey, Julia, have you ever been mistaken for anybody?
Well, do you know what? Two people I've been mistaken for. Back in the day, I was chatting to someone and I realised she was ending her sentence with Shappy.
What?
And what was ridiculous about that was it took me a while to realise, because she went, things, it's a long way though, isn't it? She was Scottish. It's a long way though, isn't it, Shappy? And I sort of went. But what was ridiculous was that the next time I saw this comedian, she said, oh my God, I was chatting to someone a few weeks ago thinking it was you. And it was like, it's still me.
Oh God, got it wrong twice.
It's me again.
Oh God. Do you know what?
Can I say one more? I got this week, I got mistaken. Well, I got mistaken for me. So I was working at this place and someone came up to me and said, there was a bloke who was working here a couple of months ago, looks just like you. I said, oh, really? Yeah, he's the same hair. It sounds just like you. I didn't have the heart to tell him it was me.
It was me.
I want to meet this bloke. Yeah, you really should do. You two really similar. Oh, great.
This woman once came up to me at the end of a gig in Manchester and she started having a real go. She was, that was fucking disgusting what you just said. I went, what? So that stuff you did about being in a shopping trolley and everything, disgusting. I went, hey, what? She thought it was Steve Harris, right? Because we'd both been on the bill. But then she proceeded to, but you know what? I sort of thought, I'm not going to contradict her. I just sat there and listened. And she took, took all Steve Harris's bits to pieces, and and the other thing once that someone in Ireland, I think I've told you this story before, came up to me after a gig, and I'd done some stuff about Ian Paisley filling in one of those smash hits questionnaires, and his favourite word being no, like favourite form of cooking herb or spice, oregano, and then favourite car, Renault, and this guy came up to me and goes, you think we don't get Radio 4 in Ireland? We do. I know what you're up to. I wrote that. He goes, no, you didn't. You wouldn't believe it was me. And it was my material that appeared the night before on Radio 4. He followed me around the club going, thief.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's...
I mean, all I can hope is that Specsavers keep it going by doing an advert about Gavin Williamson.
That would be funny, featuring a pizza. Yeah. So the other good story this week, I've got to get to this one because this is an amazing story. Go on.
Well, should we ask for any comments from the audience?
Yes.
It's a good time to
that's a good one. Have you ever been mistaken for anybody? Yeah, that's a good one.
Took the words out of your mouth. And hopefully, have you ever been mistaken for anyone who's black? That'd be.
You think Gavin Williamson
or half Iranian
congratulated Tiger Woods on his tennis victory last night?
Yes, he would have done. I think, obviously.
Emma Thompson, she was really good, very good tennis player. This is a great story though about the neo-Nazi and white supremacist, a guy called Ben John, who's aged 21, who's avoided going to prison for offences which include searching for information which could be helpful to a terrorist attack, when the judge, called Timothy Spencer, instructed him instead to read the classics of English literature such as Charles Dickens, Jane Austen and Thomas Hardy, and don't forget Anthony Trollope. I mean, it's, I know that you couldn't make it up, but it's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he said that he promised to read them all, which I'm sure he will.
Well, he's going to be tested. Apparently, he's going to be. He has to come back and be tested. And just like any other student, I expect he'll just watch the films. And to pretend that he's read them, because that's what I would do. But then again, I'm not a neo-Nazi, so it's probably unlikely. And I have read some of that stuff. The thing that got me was they found all this stuff on hard disks, external hard drives that he had, and one of which was hidden in a sock. I just hope they wash that shop before they put it in into the courts.
You'd imagine if a neo-Nazi... go on, sorry.
Well, anyone who spends a lot of his time downloading stuff off the internet, which is a bit dodgy, I don't expect their socks to be of the cleanest of variety. It's just, he seems like, I think I forgot those people who don't have sex. I forgot, incels. Sounds like he's a bit like that. The thing that really got me was he's at University of Leicester studying criminology and psychology. And he's a racist neo-Nazi. I mean, the idea that the police would employ him in the future and he'll just go, the black bloke done it.
You imagine a neo-Nazi quoting Charles Dickens, though. It was the best of nail bombs. It was the worst of nail bombs.
But that's what I didn't even get. Why, when I first heard the story, I thought perhaps the judge had suggested reading books that might help understand race, whereas in fact Charles Dickens, like Jane Austen, Charles
you can't get whiter than Jane Austen, can you? You really can't. Not a single black character. At least with Dickens, right? You've got Fagin, which of course obviously the
problematic
like that. You might like that one. You've got Othello with Shakespeare, but I mean, he said Tale of Two Cities and Twelfth Night. He didn't even pick the ones where there are any black characters or characters of another race in them. He didn't even pick those two.
It's interesting, but it's that thing that judges think that just by prescribing English literature, it's going to make you better, a better person. It's just that kind of the upper class idea of. Although, I'm not decrying literature because it is, it is good. But I want to brainstorm for people that are watching. What do you think that you would prescribe to someone who's committed a crime? What book would you would you prescribe for?
Yeah. What book do you think would change a neo-Nazi's mind and make him into a valid member of society? If there is such a thing, if there is a book that could do that. I mean, the thing that gets me about it is that obviously because he's a student, and wait a minute, I have to mention, of course, he's from Lincolnshire. In my running battle with Lincolnshire, I have to put that in. And the Lincolnshire police, God bless them, they're the ones that brought the case. Thumbs up to the Lincolnshire police. It's the idea that because he's a student and obviously he's made a mistake, and it's just a folly of youth, and that's a little bit of re-education, a few good novels, and he'll be absolutely fine. And I feel a bit weird saying that your working class racist would go to prison. It just shows that class comes in, even with racism. Class is there as well.
Yeah.
But
Go on.
It's just incomprehensible that you go, just read these few little. I think the judge just essentially misses homeschooling, but also he downloaded 70,000 documents. Like, that's not. I mean, that's a lot of work. I mean, I hope he didn't print it because. Well, if he print, I want to know what printer he's got, or what print cartridge he uses. But like, that's pretty hardcore. He was working out how to build a bomb, to suddenly say, a little bit of Oliver Twist will do you good.
Yeah. Also, he's a Satanist. So
just
to make things, he's into some sort of weird. I think it's called the Nine Angles, the Order of the Nine Angles. I mean, I have to say, I have seen the anarchist cookbook in the days when it used to be even in the library.
I remember it. Yeah,
and I also have to say that Mein Kampf was in my school library. It was one of the things you could borrow and take out, which I did do. I actually borrowed Mein Kampf from my school library and read it, and it's bloody awful. It's really bad because he starts off in the third person at the start of the book, and then suddenly, about I don't know how many pages in, he suddenly changes into the first person, and that's really annoying for any reader. If you go from Hitler did this, Hitler did that, and then suddenly goes into I did this. Really annoying.
So not only was he a bad painter, he was a bad writer as well.
He's a terrible writer. It's a I mean, anyone who can read Mein Kampf and think what a fantastic bloke after reading it, it's a terribly written book. I forgot the point I was going to make there before.
I think that's the least of his crimes, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
His characters were very badly executed.
Yes. Yeah, that's...
Sorry, I couldn't resist that one. And we think we've dealt with that one. I mean, it's just, if anyone's got any ideas, books that you could prescribe. Last subject for this week is it's dominated the news really in the latter part of last week, wasn't it? It was the Reformation after nearly 40 years, 39 years, isn't it, of ABBA. They're back with 2 new songs, but they won't appear in person, will they? They don't want to disappoint their fans, so they've gone into a studio and created these avatars.
I know, but they normally do that for dead pop stars, like Michael Jackson or Frank Sinatra. I mean, they don't normally do it for when they're all alive. I think it'll disappoint me seeing them as young. I want to see them at the age they are now, singing Dancing Queen. That would give me more joy. I mean, it works for the Rolling Stones, what's left of them. You want to see them, throwing a hip out as they're dancing on stage. That's more entertaining for me.
I agree, and I quite like the fact that all of them now look like they ought to belong in a Scandi drama as a forensic scientist that's hiding something.
Yeah, with chunky jumpers on, like detectives that have got like an alcoholic husband and a dead child and a dog that's got personality disorders. Talking about the Rolling Stones, that is true that they were great. I saw them at Glastonbury, but every time the camera went in for a close-up on either Jagger or Richard's face, you could just hear the crowd go, Jesus Christ. It was like the fucking mummy's like, Jagger's legs look amazing, but his face, oh my God.
Funny. But I don't think ABBA even looked, from the pictures that I saw of them in those weird outfits. I thought they all looked they looked all right, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, is it Benny who's still got the same hair?
Yes.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, and I think they all look pretty good considering they're in their 70s. You know, it's just strange though that they wouldn't, because it doesn't stop because they were sort of a pop band really, but it doesn't stop like rock stars don't do that, do they? They just keep going, as you say. The Stones do it. You know, even Metallica now are looking very, very worn, shop worn, should we say?
Well, they should do. I mean, they're in their 80s. You know, if you're in your 80s, when you look at the Rolling Stones and Dylan, these are people. But then again, they've got the blues, the old blues man, as a sort of template for the fact that they're aging rock singers. That's the idea that you can do this until, you know, when you're an octogenarian. And I just think it should be the same with pop. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. I know that Madonna will still be doing it at 80 and will be plastic surgeried up to, well, beyond her navel to the very top of her head, and will still be trying to do the dance moves. And God bless her for doing it. I want to, you know, if I'm alive at that time, I want to see 80-year-old Madonna giving it plenty. What's wrong with that?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you look,
Are they going to be performing together? I thought at first the deal was they were all in their separate places, but they're not. They're all going to be on stage, are they? But enhanced.
No. It's all going to be pre-recorded. So it's basically going to be like watching a video. I mean, it's not going to be a live experience in any meaningful sense. You're just going to be watching them on the screen wherever they are, and then you know their avatars will appear and.
Of them looking young and, you know, not looking what they really look like. And the thing is, if they're singing, they will still sound like, they won't sound like what they sounded like back in the 70s and the 80s. They won't.
No.
And what are they going to sing about? Like, is it going to be like Viagra and Grindr and Saga Holidays, or is that very ageist of me?
Yes, it is.
It is. It is, Juliet.
It is ageist, but I love them, and I think they should embrace that age rather than, you know.
Yeah, I think they do. One of the new songs
is weird. Sorry.
Yeah, one of the new songs apparently is about somebody looking back on their life with regret, etc. And it's, what's the word? Age appropriate, as we should say.
That's good, though. You know, I mean, because the thing that fascinates me, someone said, well, I read somewhere that they were actually offered £1 billion a few years ago to reform, and they were going to have to do a 100-date tour or something, but they said no. And I assume that was because they now, or because they were two couples, weren't they? And then they both divorced. So I wasn't sure whether it would be that they would be performing together, but in a kind of a, I'm going to try and electrocute you.
Imagine that, the band not talking to each other between the numbers, you know, separate dressing rooms. I mean, they split up and they stayed together 4 years after they split up. I mean, the tension stage must have been incredible. Sorry, Paul, what were you going to say?
Well, I think it was, I can't remember which one. I think it might have been Agnetha, who ended up having an affair with her biggest fan, this loony super fan that used to stay outside her house. And she eventually invited him in and then ended up going out with him for, I think, a year or so, until she decided, wait a minute, this man's a bit nutty.
Wow.
And then she couldn't get rid of him. He wouldn't leave.
Oh my God.
There's a shocker. Oh, my God.
But apparently Agnetha hated traveling by plane, hated performing in public. And you just think, wow, you overcame all of that. Like,
wow.
Just... Like, no wonder they're just going to do it by avatar.
It's. I just think it's sad. Yeah, but if anybody would like to say, what band do you think would make good avatars, or should do avatars of themselves?
At least ABBA have like they haven't replaced. It's still actually ABBA, isn't it? Do you know it was ABBA as in all their initials? Like they haven't gone. Oh, one of us isn't doing it. They're all doing it.
Yeah, like one of them's called Terry, and they have to call themselves Abta.
Yeah,
or one called Sid or Dave, and they'd be called Asda. Yes, we're going to go through all of them jokes now.
That'd be great.
Oh, he's frozen again.
Frozen laughing, so it looks like he's just massively approving of whatever we say.
I know. Am I frozen again now? No.
No, you're okay now.
No. I think it's when the volume goes over a certain level, it seems to affect it. So I'll try not to. You need
to, stand further away from the mic. Try the next room.
Well, that's a very nice way to end things.